everyone. I want to make sure that we all understand how I got that trend line in the last video. So I had a bunch of data, and in that data I chose 2 points. I chose 0, 100 and the point 560. I chose those 2 points because they were easy to work with. Let's be real. Mathematicians are all about efficiency. And one of the most efficient tools that we have at our disposal is a calculator or a computer that can actually calculate a trend line for us. That being said, we haven't learned how to do that yet. You will learn it in the next couple of days, however, you don't know how to yet. So because of that, I chose 2 points that work very nicely with each other. So you are going to have to eventually create a trend line for some data, and I highly suggest you pick 2 data points that fit pretty well with the data but are easy to work with. So 0, 100, 560 is a prime example of this. So a couple of things. We are looking at this base equation for a linear model, y equals mx plus b, and we are looking to replace the slope, the m, and the y-intercept, the b, in this equation to actually create a real equation. What's nice is one of my data points, which was very thoughtfully done, by the way. I picked this point for a reason. One of our data points is the y-intercept. I chose this point because it is the y-intercept. I did that because I want an efficient answer. And while this trend line is maybe not the best for this data, this is certainly a good representation of the data and won't completely throw everything off. So right away I can say y equals mx plus 100. I can already replace that b value. Now I just need to figure out what this m is. Now the equation for finding slope is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. I don't expect you to necessarily keep that memorized or anything like that, but I do expect you to try to use it. I don't care which of these 2 points you decide is your first point or your second point. This could be your first point, this could be your second point, or vice versa. I do not care. Just make it easy on yourself and make sure whatever you choose for your y value for the second point, you put its corresponding x value directly down below it. So I'm going to say this is my second point, or this is my second point and this is my first point, just because I really like that I could potentially subtract 60 from 100, so it would look like 100 minus 60. I like that. It's just easier to fit in my brain. And if this 100 is here, that means the corresponding x value needs to be 0 minus 5. So 100 minus 60 is 40. 0 minus 5 is negative 5, and I get negative 8 when I simplify that for my slope. So my final equation now is y equals negative 8x plus 100. And that's how you create a trend line. Now, if you're having a hard time with this particular slope formula, we can also look at slope in other ways. We can look at it in terms of a table. I have x values and y values, and I have 0, 100 versus 560. How do I get from 100 to 60? I have to subtract 40. How do I get from 0 to 5? I have to add 5. My change in my y value, or the rise, is negative 40. The change in my x value, or my run, is 5. That means I have negative 40 over 5, which simplifies to negative 8. So I get yet again the same number. So you can look at this multiple different ways. You could even put this on a graph so you can actually truly see the rise over the run. And you can look at that stair step that we made in the last unit. It's up to you. I do not care. But the biggest idea is that you are looking at the rise over the run, or the y values versus the x values, and finding that slope. I hope this was helpful in creating that trend line. Now let's look at how I got some of those other answers and how I can use this trend line. I mentioned in the last video that I could potentially say, what if I knew that I missed math 3 times. What could I expect for my grade based on this trend line? If I had 3 absences, that means I am going to put this 3 in for x right here. So I'm going to say y is equal to negative 8 times 3 plus 100. And I'm going to solve for y. Negative 8 times 3 is negative 24 plus 100. I get, what is that, 76. That means I'm going to get a 76 in math class based on that. And I can guarantee you this 76 would fit on that data model or on that trend line. Now, what if I knew that I wanted to get at least a 60%? Well, no, I'm not going to do 60%. What if I knew that in order to get presents under the Christmas tree or my Hanukkah gifts or whatever it may be that you are celebrating during the holidays in December and November and that sort of thing? What if you had to get at least a 75% in math class? At least. So a 76 from the last class, so that means 3 absences, would be okay. However, like how much effort do you really have to put in to get a 75? Let's say 70%. Okay, so it's not so close to the last one. How about 70%? If we were looking at 70%, 70% is my y values. This is my dependent variable. It's very clear that my math grade depends on my absences. So my 70% is going to go into the y value. I want to figure out what the independent variable, the number of absences I can have to maintain a 70% in math class. So I'm going to now solve for x. That means I need to subtract 100 on both sides, and I get negative 30 is equal to negative 8x. I'm then going to divide by negative 8 on both sides. So I get negative 30, and I'm going to put this in my calculator, so that's why I'm acting a little weird. Negative 30 divided by a negative 8 equals 3.75x. That means I could miss almost 4 days of math class and still maintain a 70%. That means you're probably well within your ability to say like you could miss 4 days, but you might have to work a little hard on a couple of those days just to make sure you maintain that 70%. But between 3 and 4 days is what you could miss in math class to still keep a 70% based on this data that we were looking at. All right. So I hope all of this made this a little bit clearer when it comes to trend lines. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.